Blessed are you as you weep on your knees, with perfume and tears washing over my feet. Blessed are you, beggar, hopeless and blind, calling for mercy when I'm passing by.
Blessed are you, shaking your head at 2 tiny fish and some bread. Blessed are you as you tremble and wait for the first stone thrown at your sinful disgrace. Tell me your story, show me your wounds, and I'll show you what love sees when love looks at you. Hand me the pieces, broken and bruised, and I'll show you what love sees when love sees you. Blessed are you, walking on waves, to find yourself sinking when you look away. Blessed are you, lepers standing alone, the fear on their faces is all that you've known. Blessed are you, lonely widow who gave your last shiny coin to Yahweh. Blessed are you with your silver and lies, kissing the one who's saving your life. Tell me your story, show me your wounds, and I'll show you what love sees when love looks at you. Hand me the pieces, broken and bruised, and I'll show you what love sees when love sees you. I see what I made in your mother's womb. I see the day I fell in love with you. I see your tomorrows, nothing left to chance. I see my Father's fingerprints. I see my story, I see my name written on every beautiful page. You see the struggle, you see the shame. I see the reason I came. I came for your story, I came for your wounds, to show you what love sees when I see you. Hand me the pieces, broken and bruised, and I'll show you what love sees when love sees you. When I see love, when I see you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Well, today is Memorial Day, and so before the message, we do have a short video that we'd like to show. So, George, if we could have the screen at this time.
The sight before us is that of a strong and good nation that stands in silence and remembers those who were loved and who in return loved their countrymen enough to die for them. Yet we must try to honor them, not for their sakes alone, but for our own. And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions, we must strive to keep faith with them and with a vision that led them to battle and a final sacrifice. Our first obligation to them and ourselves is plain enough. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper. Their lives remind us that freedom is not bought cheaply. It has a cost. The willingness of some to give their lives so that others might live never fails to evoke in us a sense of wonder and mystery, and how they must have wished, in all the ugliness that war brings, that no other generation of young men to follow would have to undergo that same experience. As we honor their memory today, let us pledge that their lives, their sacrifices, their valor shall be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this nation. And let us also pledge to do our utmost to carry out what must have been their wish, that no other generation of young men will ever have to share their experiences and repeat their sacrifice.
Good morning. Pastor Lou is out of town, so you get me again. I notice this is becoming a habit, so I would appreciate if some of you other guys start saying yes and quit having to be his last choice up here every single time, all right? So that video was kind of wild how that worked out with Reagan's speech there. I had Brother John text me the link to the video yesterday afternoon. I was working on the message for this morning. I was about 3/4 of the way through it, and the message I had was "Don't let it be for naught," which was part of his speech there. It's just neat how God makes that work. I mean, there are literally thousands of videos that Brother John could have picked and put together for that. And for it to be that one was pretty neat. So the title of the message is, "Don't Let It Be for Naught." They fought, cried, bled, and died, all for each other, for the protection of their families, future generations, the idea of freedom, and that all men are created equal. I have heard warriors say, if war must come, let it come in my time, so that my children may live in peace. These brave men and women fought their wars and died in service to us to preserve our country, our freedoms, and our way of life. I have a question for you. Will you let it be for naught? Will all the blood that was spilt, all the tears shed by grieving mothers and fathers, by grieving children who will never get to see their daddy again, be for naught? Will we let their sacrifice be in vain? The generations of brave souls that we are honoring around America died on distant battlefields in hopes to preserve our nation. But now there is a different kind of battlefield, a new war, one that is at home, in our backyards, our schools, and in our towns and communities. It's not fought with cannons and tanks. It's fought with words and ideas. While our brave brothers and sisters of the past put on their armor and picked up a rifle and a bandolier of ammunition to fight to preserve our way of life at home. Our brothers and sisters of today, our fellow Americans, must put on their daily attire and picked up a Constitution and a Bill of Rights to preserve what they fought for, our freedoms, our children's future way of life. But most of all, we must fight to preserve the sacrifice of the generations of men and women who we are honoring. We as Americans have been conditioned to believe that the only wars there are to fight are ones that are fought with rifles and bullets, with tanks and rockets. All the while, a war has been being fought here for decades in this country, for our minds, for our morality, and for our freedom. I ask you again, will we let the sacrifices that these soldiers made be for naught? Will we allow this country to be stripped of its beauty from within on our watch? On our time to hold true and toe the line? Through my time thinking about this message, I started to recognize a pattern with humanity, with people. One generation would fight heroically against all odds, only for the next generation to take it all for granted and lose everything. Even through the Bible, in the books of Judges, Kings, and Chronicles, we see one judge after another, one king after another, does a good job, changes it all for the country, only to have the people or another king that comes up after them reject it all, not honoring the sacrifices made in the past that were made for them. I recognize the pattern in Christianity as a whole, where a group of people get revival, tens of thousands are saved, and it completely changes the course of a country. Believe it or not, it's happened here in our country a few times, only for the next generation to forget God and go back to the world. I've noticed a pattern in church, watching people come and give their lives to Christ, becoming a Christian, giving their hearts to God, seeking His forgiveness for their sins, and being, as we say, and as the Bible says, born again, only to see their children grow and turn their backs on all the goodness, all the peace, all the blessings that God had given to their parents, and believe it or not, was going to give to them. I recognized a pattern in my personal life. I'd fight hard against all the odds, and God gave me a victory over something. Blessings, peace, and joy. A wonderful time of balance and prosperity in my life. But before you know it, I have fallen again because of my own pride and selfish desires and putting myself before God. Isn't that what it all boils down to, after all? Pride and service to self that puts us in these situations. You know, Proverbs 29:23 says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Soldiers are sent to fight on distant battlefields, to defend against the selfishness and prideful actions of a different nation who may have tried to push their will onto a neighboring country. American citizens must fight against the selfishness of Marxists and socialists who wish only to indoctrinate the children, divide our country into many groups as possible, only to, in the end, enrich themselves with money and power. Christian communities as a whole must fight the constant urge of being prideful and service to self by keeping God in the forefront of His institution and not themselves. And we as individual Christians must fight to always have God first in our personal walk with Him. Many of us here do not wear a uniform of the armed services. But that does not mean that we do not have a sworn duty. First, to our Lord and Savior, who saved us and who promises that if we keep His commandments, He will always be with us. Second, to our country, to non-apologetically stand firm on the Constitution of our Christian nation. Amen. And third, we have a sworn duty to all those who came before us, who paid the ultimate price by giving their lives that we may breathe free. A warning to what happens when we forget God and all that He has done for us. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, we are still riding the blessings in this country that God gave to our forefathers. Deuteronomy 8:19 says this, and it shall be that if thou do at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day that ye shall surely perish. You may say, I don't have any gods. What about money, power, sports, lust, entertainment, drugs, alcohol, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, social media? There's a million apps, isn't there? What about your phones? How many of us can't leave the house without our phones? How many of us have them glued to our hands right now? How many of us have checked them in the last 10 minutes? See, I know in the Bible we think that a God is, Baal. And we look in the Bible and we go, well, I didn't sacrifice one of my children to Baal, my firstborn son. I didn't take him and lay him on the red-hot arms of Baal or Moloch and burn my child to death, so I'm not serving any gods. All the while, we forget God. We forget the sacrifices made by others so that we could be here, and we chase other gods. It could be anything. Anything. Dare I even to say your own children could be your God. You could put them in the place of God. Not that you get on your hands and knees and worship them, but you'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they have what they need, and then your Christianity is a second. Do you know that's what we've done? We do that in our Christian walk without even recognizing it. But do you realize that's what we've done as a country? There's this portrait that I love, and I can't remember where I seen it. It's probably in one of the Smithsonian's, but it's a man he painted this picture of the top layer of the crust of the earth, and it's got swing sets on it, and it's green and it's beautiful, and the families are playing on it on this top level, and it's a picnic, and everybody's having fun, and there's beautiful vehicles on it, and it's just a beautiful painting. And then below that cross that shows soldiers holding it up. See, we in America, that's what it's like. We don't see the sacrifices. We don't see men and women fighting their wars in whatever capacity that we fight them in, being shredded by bombs, by machine gun fire, people being blown apart. We don't see those things. And because of that, we forget. We forget where we've came from. We forget the sacrifices that were made. So we do that in Christianity as well. Think about how so easy it is. We get lost in chasing our own selfish desires all the times, don't we? That's what happens to us. We're human. We forget. That's why so how with our phone apps, right, and online, you could search the Bible for any key words. I searched forget. Do you know how many warnings are in the Bible about forgetting? I had no idea. I could literally sit there and scroll how many verses were in there regarding not forgetting God. Think of the warnings. Now, if He's warning us not to forget Him, ladies and gentlemen, how easy is it going to be to forget the sacrifices that other humans have made for us that we've never met, that we've never seen happen? Now we would remember the sacrifice if we were walking outside and you were about to get hit by a bus and someone grabbed you and threw you out of the way and sacrificed themselves for you, you would remember that, wouldn't you? Well, why? Because it happened. It happened right in front of your eyes. We are so blessed to be in America because we don't get impacted by foreign wars. There's not a lot of weapons that can reach us. We send our young men and women into the blender of warfare, and we never see it. There's this documentary I seen about World War II, and in the documentary they depicted what our soldiers were going through in World War II, just the depravity, the frozen limbs. As in France, and guys, their hands were frozen to their rifles. The trench foot, the bullet wounds, all these horrible things that were happening, and then they flash back. And he says, and in the commentary, I'll never forget it. And I was young when I seen it. It flashes back, and the gentleman says, or the narrator says in the documentary, but back in America, it was like nothing was going on. And they show these people doing the weird dance, where they're all going like this, right? And everybody's dressed, from the 40s. And they are having a time. We've been doing that for generations. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it's starting to take a toll. We have to get back to remembering and honoring. How do we get back? How do we honor God and the brave men and women who gave their lives to us? Deuteronomy 4:9 says this, "Only take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them to thy sons and thy sons' sons." Right there is the answer. You know what I love about the Bible is how simple it is. Amen. It's so simple. You want to know how to get back? Just do what it says. It's very simple. Keep your soul diligently. When I was in the military, we had to keep up on our gear, right? The tools of the trade, our craft. Our craft in the military was war. So what did I have to do? We had, I don't remember, they gave us the number, 78 pieces of gear. I can't remember what it was. But you had to keep up on these items. This is what you needed in warfare to be successful. And those items were built around your job to support a war. We're all the same. We all fight, but we all fight different battles, do we not? You cannot, if you're going to go and fight an aerial battle, right? It's going to be, a war in the sky. Are you going to be in good shape when you field like me? I was a combat engineer. My job was to shape a battlefield on the ground. So if our enemy sends an aircraft, some piece of aircraft, is it going to make sense to send me as a ground troop? No, of course not, right? We have to send somebody that's aerial defense. See, we're the same way. We have to be ready to fight our battle the way it's given to us. I had to maintain those pieces of gear so that when I was fielded into combat, I could be successful. But I joke around with the junior church kids all the time. And I go, because I always talk about being ready as a good Christian. And we have to wear a breastplate of righteousness, right? And the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Lord, right? In the Bible, we got to be all right. And I go, so what would have happened when they fielded me, my debut, the day I dropped into Iraq, my first mission, right? Which we were terrified, which is, looking back on it, was so crazy. the recommended combat load for a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on one of our trucks was 600 rounds, and we put 1,500 rounds of ammunition into our truck because we were so afraid we were just going to get lit up and we were all going to die on our first mission. None of us had ever seen combat before. If you get 1,500 rounds, that's 15 boxes of ammo. That's thousands of pounds we put into our truck. But either way, what if I showed up, and the kids always laugh about it. What happens if I would have showed up and they gave me combat boots, but I said, hey, those are uncomfortable. I'm wearing sandals. And I don't mean the ones with the straps across the back. I mean the flip-flops. Like when you walk, they go, you hear them slapping against your foot all the time. And instead of the combat pants, I don't think you guys understand, Iraq's hot. Oh, it's real hot. It's 130 degrees. Man, it's too hot. So I brought my shorts. I'm wearing my shorts. And that uniform, the blouse, they call it a blouse, that's heavy. It's got all those pockets. It's just so hot, right? I can't do that. So I wore a sleeveless shirt, and I did bring the body armor. Body armor is cool. It's got all those pockets on it. It's great. You can hold your camera, right? You can hold your personal fan. Right? Forget putting all the extra magazines and ammunition in it. I don't need those. Right? I don't need that. We're all good. Right? And oh, by the way, the body armor, those plates that they put inside of it, my body armor weighed 65 pounds. Yeah, wow. In 130 degrees? Yeah, right. Oh, my is right. That's heavy. It's hot. It's uncomfortable. So instead of that, I packed it full of ice. It's 130 degrees outside. Got to keep it cool. And by the way, the helmet, I'm still going to wear a helmet, but that 9-pound helmet, nah. Now forget that. I want to play it again, right? Got me one of them skater punk helmets. I'm going to wear that instead, right? Oh, the rifle, where did I leave that thing? I got it somewhere around here, right? Oh, the oil for the rifle? I didn't need that. It was hot out. I grabbed extra water. I mean, come on. Now, if you've seen me stumbling off of the plane into Iraq, what would you do? What would you say? If you were leadership, probably wouldn't say much. You would just punch me out. Let me ask you, how effective of a combat troop was I going to be? You weren't. I wasn't. I was not going to be effective. I was going to be ineffective. See, we are trained to maintain every piece. And then we do this other thing called a buddy check. And we go through and we make sure everybody had their gear. Because combat's stressful. Things are hard to do sometimes. We have to get everything ready. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a responsibility as citizens of the United States to uphold our end. And we have not. Yes, we do not carry rifles and we do not walk around with body armor. At least not yet. Things are getting a lot worse. We see our society degrading at a rapid pace, but that's because we have not maintained. We have not maintained what we were supposed to maintain. While our ladies and gentlemen were over in uniform, were over there putting their lives on the line, we were doing what that documentary said in World War II. We were partying. We were having a good time. Because we thought, well, we have these things, these constitutions, these Bill of Rights, all these amendments. We have judges, we have police, we have all these things that are meant to maintain our society so we can just go live our life. And that's what they told us. That's what they told us to do. Don't worry, the politicians of the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s today. Don't worry, that's why you elect us. But you know what we weren't doing? We weren't making sure our tools of the trade were brushed off and ready to go. We weren't maintaining what we should have been maintaining as citizens while those people were dying to make sure we had the rights, to make sure we could breathe free. We weren't maintaining it. We were just living our lives. We need to keep ourselves pure. We need to stay on point and put away the distractions. We need to get up every day and prepare ourselves for the fight ahead. We need to get back to educating and teaching our kids. Did you notice that that was in the second part of that verse? And the Bible says, "But teach thy sons and thy sons' sons." Why do you think when the Lord talks about not forgetting Him, He puts an emphasis on teaching your sons and your sons' sons? You can look at the Israelis today, and they still are passing down in their culture things to their children. Are they not? Their culture is huge on it. That's why they're ancient. That's why they've been able to last for so long, other than being obviously God's chosen people. Maybe we should glean some of those things. I mean, that's what the Bible is, right? It's God's instruction book for our life. Are we not to glean from it? But you know what we do is we do not educate our children. We do not teach them. When the military taught me to do certain things, it was direct. It was on purpose. How many of us teach our children on purpose? Right? Teaching your children on purpose is hard. To go in with a direct line, right? I was dropping trees yesterday in our yard. We have a lot of old growth. So we were dropping a few trees. And I was trying to teach my sons, right, directly how to drop a tree. Now, they're children. I would like them to act a little older. So frustrating as I'm trying to show them how to drop a tree and at the same time keep the tree from dropping on them because they're acting like children, you know. But it was hard teaching them directly. How many of us do that when it comes to our children, when it involves country matters? I'm raising my hand. I'm not very good at it. I'm starting to. I see what's coming down the pipe. They want to educate my kid. They want to tell my son it's okay to wear a dress. What? Oh, I mean, you listen to it. I don't know if any of you have tuned into Congress lately, but they have these boards up, and I watched one of the congressmen ask if this lady believed that a man could birth a child. And she said yes. In Congress. Yeah, you're right. Crazy. Crazy. Now, we could sit there and we can say all sorts of things and blame everybody else. But whose fault is it? It's ours. It's ours. Why? Because we have not been preparing our children or our children's children. We decided that grilling on Memorial Day was more important than taking them to the graveyard, than teaching them and maybe reading some stories about what people did and what they went through so we could be here today, surrounded by flags, sitting in air conditioning, as we all drove our air-conditioned vehicles here on top of paved roads in a beautiful society where there's not bombs landing from other countries. Think about it. There's a reason God tells us to educate our children. We need to not let the government and everyone else do it for us. We need to remember where we came from, who we came from, and the sacrifices that they made so that we can be here. I hope that you help me today in honoring the sacrifices that have been made for our Christianity and our country. See, us being Christians, it's twofold. If you look back at Christian history, it should be a lot easier for us to see how important it is through our Christianity to understand that we need to also maintain our patriotism, right? Our citizenship. Look at what Christianity has gone through for you to be here today. We were founded as a Christian nation. But think about all the people that were fed the lions, that were burned as lamps in Nero's palace garden, that were tortured, horrible things done through, families separated, children sold, killed, murdered. That's still happening today while we enjoy where we are. See, as Christians, we can look back and we can understand. My wife, she teaches our children about the martyrs. It's easier for Christianity. We see that. We have the direct line. And we have this thing called hell lingering over us, right? So what do we do with our kids? Well, I don't want my kids to go to hell, do you? Right? So I bring them to church. So I put them under other people's authority in church in the classrooms, because I'm hoping that one of the teachers, if I can't connect with my kid, that one other teacher will connect with my child, and they'll be able to explain to them what it means to be saved. I will do anything to give them the opportunities to make sure they don't go to hell. But do I give them the same opportunities to make sure their country doesn't go socialist or communist? I'll be honest, I haven't. See, what's nice about writing the messages is I get convicted a day or two earlier. Right? I go through this stuff and I'm like, oh man, I haven't done that. Oh man, I need to do that. And then I got to hurry up and tell them a war story before you guys get it, so I can say I've already started. What are we doing? See, we have such an emphasis on Christianity, which we need to have. We need to have that emphasis. We need to do it that way. We have to, right? We understand that. We can't diminish the emphasis on teaching our sons and our daughters and our sons' sons, right? And everyone else going down. We understand we need the emphasis on teaching them, because it's a very real thing. We want them to be Christians. We want to see them in heaven. We don't want their souls lost to hell because of something that we've done or something that we didn't do by going the extra mile. But then when it comes to honoring the fallen brothers and sisters that we've seen put through the blender of warfare, well, I mean, guys want to do a cookout tomorrow? Have some cheeseburgers? Sit around, goof off, go swimming? Ouch. That's convicting. We've let our country go. And we can see it fighting back. We see people fighting against it, against the turn, against the socialism and the communism and the transgenderism and every other isms that are out there. We can see them fighting. Now, whether or not, I don't know if it's too little, too late. That's up to the Lord, isn't it? If there's one thing I love about the Bible, it's full of comeback stories. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there ain't one situation that I read about in the Bible where the Lord said, well, I don't know, David, King David, you got, 15 million troops. They only got like 10,000. I think it's a good idea. I think you're going to be good. Does that happen? No. It's always about, well, let's see, David, I'm going to protect you. You're going to do great. I understand he's a 10-foot giant and you're a beanpole. The Bible says ruddy but fair to look on. So apparently he was just, an Abercrombie and Finch model when he went up against Goliath, who was a man of war. Right? That's what we have. That's what we have in the Bible. The Israelites backed in the corner against the Red Sea. And what does the Lord do? Parts the Red Sea. Right? We can go through account after account after account where the Lord delivers his people. But here's the thing. You got to be his people. Right? It's not a free-for-all. You got to be part of the group. You got to be part of the in crowd. And I'll tell you what, you know what I also have noticed is that the Lord always saved a remnant. So even if there was judgment, let's say the Lord decides that America, yeah, you're going to have some problems for a little bit. You're going to have some issues. You're going to have some time of war, and you ain't going to win. You're going to have some times of famine, and there ain't going to be no food. If he says that, you know what I noticed? In his Bible, he always has a remnant. Always. The people that hold on to him the closest are usually the people that make it out. Now, they have some hard times, and they go for it. But you know what? I want to make sure that we're part of that remnant. I'd like to make sure that each and every one of you are part of that remnant. But the only way to be part of that remnant is to hold true, is to remember, is to work towards. This whole being in a Christian, lukewarmism, like I said, I hate isms, right? Drives me nuts. Get in or get out. It's not that hard. You get to pick. That's what I love about it. But people can come and sit inside of a congregation and sit and listen to preaching, especially the preaching in our church. I don't know if you guys realize it. It's not that flowery. Look what you've been listening to for the last 30 minutes. There's some guys that get behind this pulpit. They know how to skin some people alive when it comes to preaching on sin, don't they? And yet people will sit inside of here and not move, don't care. They're going to get up and they're going to go back to the world all week long like they never heard anything, expecting zero ramifications. Zero. What are we doing? Where are we going? Are we remembering what it took to get here? Or are we being, like I talked about in the beginning, are we fitting into that pattern that I recognized? Where we get up and we see, yeah, that group of people, boy, they went through a lot for us. But you know what? They're not here now. So I'm just going to live it up. I don't have to maintain my gear, right? I don't have to maintain a relationship with my town supervisors and the mayor and our congressman. I don't have to write them. I don't have to call them. I just got done calling one yesterday, and I told him if he wants to continue to act like a Democrat, feel free to just change sides so we can get somebody else in. I'll be the first one to primary you out. I'm sorry. I've had enough. I'm fighting. Right? This is how you fight. Ladies and gentlemen, war is hard. War is rough. And like I said, we've been conditioned to think that war is only fought with rockets and tanks. This ain't that. This is a war of words and ideas. They're about being political and pandering and money and corruption, and that's what they want to be on. And they need someone to hold their feet to the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, that was supposed to be us. We were never supposed to stop doing that while our brothers and sisters were protecting our borders and keeping us safe. But we've let their sacrifice down for the time being. I'm asking you today to get back on the horse. Not just as a U.S. citizen, but also as a Christian. They are one and the same. We are a nation built on the Christian values. We have presidents that were saved, born-again Christians that knew God. We can get back to that. But where does it start? It starts right here. I told you before that there have been revivals in this country. Whole political scopes were changed because of something that happened in a church. There was a story, and I believe it was in Chicago or New York City, I can't remember, but it talked about a group of businessman. There was a businessman who started a prayer session. And then before you know it, a whole group of saved businessmen were praying at lunchtime every day. And then it grew. A revival happened from it. Things were changed. But it has to start somewhere. In that video, there was one of the things that President Reagan said. One of the things that was written on an engraving above in front of the cemetery there. It said, "Their names live on forever." That's what it said at that cemetery. And I thought that was really neat. But I'll tell you today, it'll only live forever if we remember them. If we don't teach our children, if we don't teach our neighbors, ladies and gentlemen, it will all be for naught. All of it. Freedom is lost or gained in one generation. We have been so blessed in this country. I really feel that it's just because the Lord couldn't find a better country at the time to take down the torch. He keeps us going, right? Our country still gives the missions. We're still preaching. We're still doing some things, all the while murdering babies, right? All the while doing that. He's been winking at our infirmities. He's been letting it go. But there is a day of reckoning. How long? It's completely up to Him. Are we going to let it go? Are we going to give it up? Are we going to let the blood that was spilled for us be for naught? Are we going to all let it go to the way? There was, maybe someone could help me out with the king in the Bible who did this. He was told that, I believe, Nebuchadnezzar was going to come. The Chaldeans were going to come, and they're going to wipe him out. And he had this moment of, "I am so sorry, Lord, and I can't believe this is going to happen." And the Lord said, "Don't worry, it'll come the judgment will come in your children's time." And what did he say? "Oh, okay." Man alive, I can't remember the guy's name. Hezekiah, right? And he goes, "Oh, well, I mean, as long as it's in my children's time. I mean, I'm good then, right? I mean, we're all set. I mean, Lord, I'm good to go then. I mean, I can business. I just want to make sure, cross my T's, dot my I's, that I'm good to go then. Like I'm untouchable. So it's going to be in their time." Far from the comment of, if war was to come, let it come in my time, so that when my children's times come, they may live in peace. Far from that. See, we've been living with Hezekiah for the last little bit. We've been kicking the can down the road. Maybe not verbally, maybe not knowingly, but the whole time we've been getting subverted from within and from without. No one said anything. Ignorance is not an excuse. You can still lose everything and be ignorant. In fact, that's why usually ignorant people have nothing. See, we got to educate ourselves. We got to stand for what's right. We have to push to honor what has happened in the past by making sure. How do we honor them? By making sure what they fought, they bled, and they died for doesn't go away. That's how you honor them. Don't get me wrong, it's a wonderful thing to go in front of a flag and salute it, to go and see a parade. Them are good things. Them are good things to remember them. But to honor them, we have to make sure what they died for stays preserved. We're only one generation away from those Bill of Rights going away, if that. We're only one generation away from our Constitution being rewritten. You hear the politicians talk about it. Oh, that piece of paper. Oh, that old document. Judges, I heard a quote from a judge that says, if you think you're going to bring a Constitution into my courtroom and talk about your rights, you are mistaken. Are we honoring the fallen? Are we honoring the gift that they gave us? Each and every one of us have a personal choice. I say this to my junior church kids all the time. I can't force anybody to do anything. I say, if you're going to do right, can I make you do right in here? And they're like, yeah, you can make me do right in here. If I give you a piece of candy, are you going to be a good boy and girl? Oh, I'm going to be a good boy and girl. What happens when you get out in the world and one of the kids goes, I'm going to live like the devil? He was just being a goofball, right? I'm not going to do what's right. I'm like, dude, buddy. But that's true, right? That's what we do. We all come into church and we're all dressed nice. We all get up, right? Some of us get to do our hair. Others don't. Right? I at least get a beard to brush. Right? Excited about that. Somebody walked in. I can't remember who it was. We were walking in today, and they said our children, our girls look just like your girls look just like their mom. And I said, I know, thank goodness. Can you imagine a bunch of bald-headed, bearded girls running around? How are we honoring the gift that was given to us? Are we honoring the gift that was given to us? Or are we just treating it like fire insurance? It's what we call a situation where someone gets saved, right? And they really do. They get saved and they give their life to Christ, right? And they're all excited, and then 2 years later, they're sitting at the bar. Well, I ain't worried about it. I can do whatever I want. I ain't going to hell. How's your life going to work? But here's the thing, we've been treating our country like that. Oh, we're good. The debt's been paid. Do you know that debt, as a citizen of the United States, the debt never gets paid off. It's not like a car, where eventually you just write that last check or a mortgage, or you write that last check and the debt's been paid. You see, every generation has to pay something to keep it. Every generation. The world is evil. There are evil people in this world that want to take it all from us. And we've been letting them for a little while. We haven't been honoring them. We haven't been honoring the fallen. We haven't been honoring Christ in our lives. We have to start somewhere. So I would encourage you today, as we close, Brother Donovan, you can come up. I'm not sure where he went. There he is. You're sitting in the new place, brother. You confused me. You scared me. I thought I was going to have to figure invitation out myself. We have to decide today, you have to decide today, how you are going to get involved. Any way you can. Any way you can. Whether it's encouraging people or telling a story or teaching your kids or your grandkids. Any way you can to preserve what's right. Take that initiative. You can say, Mr. Jesse, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know how to get involved. You know what? You know how you do it? You stand there and you go, I'm not sure what to do. And you just go, well, I'm going to take a step. Right? For the longest time, I was terrified to call my congressman. I don't know why. I voted for him. Shouldn't have. I should have picked a different one. But I was terrified. I was scared. Right? Just like ever witness to somebody? It's always terrifying. Why? You're just trying to change their life. I'm just trying to preserve my country. It's one and the same. It should be that easy. Right? Anything you can do to take that step. To honor Christ. To honor the martyrs of before in Christianity. And to honor every person that's died and sacrificed for our freedom. But it's up to you. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for today, and thank you for allowing me to come before your congregation today. And Lord, I hope that someone here today is affected, and as Lord, even just myself, you giving me this and having to work for a while to try and pen this down and to work on it, Lord, you were just convicting me that I need to do more. And Lord, with my kids and my country and with my church, and Lord, standing up for not just freedom, but for you, Lord. Lord, it's one and the same. We are a Christian nation. Lord, help us to honor those that have bled and died for our physical freedom, But Lord, help us to also honor you, who bled and died for our spiritual freedom. We love you. Thank you for everything you've done.